Nobody cares about code quality, until they feel the consequences of this negligence, of course. Keeping the quality of your code high is absolutely crucial, especially when you work on a team. Every app is built by writing individual statements first, so before even discussing high-level design patterns, you should start with project cleanliness from the ground up by configuring more advanced linting. Hello, welcome to ResoCoder, where you are getting prepared for real app development so that you will get freelance clients or a job and be confident about the apps you build. So subscribe and hit the bell to join us on our quest for becoming in-demand Flutter developers. In this tutorial, you are going to learn about what the heck even linting is and also how to set it up so that, for example, you are not going to get only a warning message here whenever you forget to add a required named parameter, for example, unpressed for a floating action button. So we're going to take a look at how you can change the severity of this error message so that it won't be only a warning, which does not prevent you from running the app and compiling it, but it will be instead a fully blown error. With that said, be sure to check out the written tutorial from the link in the description, where you can find all of the code written in this video, links to the libraries, and overall go through this lesson at your own pace. As you are already familiar with, and as you can tell by this squiggly line below the floating action button, every Flutter project and every Dart project for that matter has some linting already enabled. The thing is that linting may not always do the best thing. For example, why are we getting only a warning message when we omit a required named parameter? That just doesn't make any sense. If we take a look at the output, we see that the parameter unpressed is required and it's only warning us about that. So how can we make this into an error, which will mean that when I stop the app and I am going to run it, we aren't going to be able to just run it simply as that. What we want instead is something which happens when you have an omitted positional argument. For example, a text widget needs to take in a positional argument, the string which it displays on the screen. And whenever something like this happens, that you omit a positional argument, you get a fully blown error here, which means that you are not going to be able to run the app. Well, you are going to be able to, but at least you get this nice error pop-up, which will make sure that you get notified about the error which you have introduced into your code base. So how can we do something like this also for required named parameters? That's where AnalysisOptionsyaml file comes into play. By default, Flutter projects currently don't have this file pre-created, so we're gonna have to create it manually. So let's just create a new file at the root of the project and name it AnalysisOptions.yaml. And inside there, we can change the severity of the error messages. If we take a look at the output here, we can see that the parameter is required message has code missing required param. And actually, after adding our own AnalysisOptions.yaml file, you can see that this error message has changed its severity from warning to being just an info message. We don't get a yellow squiggly line, but instead we get a blue squiggly line. We're going to fix that in just a bit by adding some linting packages, but for now, let's stick with this mess which we have created here for a while. To change the severity of this single error message, we're going to need to modify the analyzer settings. And then we're going to specify the severity of errors. And the error which we want to modify here is this, missing required param. And with that, we can now set it to error. And once we save this AnalysisOptions.yaml file, you'll be able to see that immediately we have a red file shown in VS Code, And also this has just turned into a fully blown error message. So now what that means that when we try to run the app, when we omit the onPress parameter, we are going to get an error pop-up as well, just like we would get it when we omitted a positional argument. And of course, you can still sort of omit required named parameters, but you will just have to specify them to be null manually. So this still works. You cannot just forget to input a required named parameter, and I think that's how it should be actually in Dart by default. Dart just has some really idiotic defaults by default. So we're going to fix up Dart by changing the AnalysisOptions.yaml file manually. And the possible severity errors which you can specify inside AnalysisOptions.yaml are ignore, info, warning, and also error. We have just changed the severity of an error which was already present inside our Flutter project by default. After all, we have already gotten a squiggly line below the floating action button class instantiation. It just wasn't of the correct type. We needed to change it from warning to error. But what if we want to enable some linting which is not by default present inside a Dart or a Flutter project? And also, how can we find out which linting rules are available out there? Well, the answer to that question is to check out the docs of the official linter package, because in Dart, even linting is handled by a package. It's not just baked into the Dart language by itself. It's really a separate package, which you can actually check out on pub.dev. So let's go over here and we are going to search for linter. This is a regular package. As you can see, it's updated quite frequently. So let's open that up. We're going to go into its repository. And of course, the link to this is also in the written tutorial, which is available on resocoder.com from the link in the description. And what we are actually interested in is this GitHub.io page for this package. So let's just open it up. And here we can see the list of lint rules. For example, is there a rule which will prevent the reassignment of a method parameter? Because I think that is just not cool. For example, here we have some method which I have created previously. And what we can currently do is say x is equal to 5, for example. Is this something which Dart should allow? I don't think so. Parameters should not be reassigned. Functions come from mathematics, and in mathematics you just cannot reassign suddenly a parameter of a function. All a function should do is use the parameters but not change them, right? And as for programming purposes, changing the value of parameters just can cause a bunch of problems. You are not going to be able to keep the mental model of your code in mind, so you should really not reassign parameters. So is there a lint rule which we can enable which will notify us when we do something stupid as this? Well, of course there is. Let's just look it up on the page. So I know that this rule is actually called parameter assignment, so I'm just going to search for it here. And you can of course just scroll through and find rules which you are interested in. So here we go, parameter assignments. As you can see, this rule is not enabled anywhere, not even in Flutter and basically nowhere. So let's just take a look at this. And you can see that this will prevent us from reassigning parameters. So how can we enable this rule? Well, the answer is again AnalysisOptions.yaml. So let's jump back in there, and we cannot just change the severity of this linter rule because it's not even enabled. We first need to enable it, and then we can go about changing its severity, because the default severity of every rule is info, and we're gonna want to change it to be a fully blown error again. But let's first enable the linter rule itself. To do that, we're going to specify linter, which is again a package. So that's why we specify it as a top level thing in this AnalysisOptions.yaml. Analyzer is also a package, by the way. Everything is a package in the Dart ecosystem, basically, except for the most common libraries. And we want to enable some rules. And the rule name is parameter assignments. All right, so when we save that, we're going to take a look at main.dart, and we can see that now we get a nice squiggly line with a message: don't reassign references to parameters of functions or methods. So that's cool, but wouldn't it be nicer to again have a fully blown error here, or at least a warning message? Of course it would be nicer. So we are going to change parameter assignment severity inside the analyzer's errors to be an error, right? And when we do that, we again are going to get a red file color in VS Code, and we can see that we just basically get an error here, which is definitely a good thing. And also one quick mention of the YAML style, which you can use for the rules. We have just specified it as a list of just simple rule names, but you can also make this rules element. I'm not sure how it's properly called in YAML anyway, but you can make this into a map where you can assign true or false. So if there are some rules coming from a package or from the default linting which you want to disable, you can search their name and then tell them to be false. If you want to enable a rule, you can set it to true. However, when you have this map style of rules, you cannot mix it with the list style of rules, which is always enables the rule in question. So you can choose one format or the other, but you cannot mix the map and list formats for the rules. But let's just make it back into a list. And of course, you can find all of this in the written tutorial. So although looking through the list of all possible linter rules right here can be indeed very enlightening, I think everybody has something more important to do than just look through these rules. Thankfully, we can utilize packages which come with some sensible defaults regarding lint rules and also their severity. Currently, there are 3 such packages worth mentioning. The first one is pedantic. This is used internally by Google, which is both a blessing and a curse. And that's because they don't want to break their code base by enabling certain rules which are otherwise really worth enabling. So we are not going to use pedantic, but you can use it and it's available on pub.dev. Actually, if we click here, we should be taken to pedantic right here. The next one is effective Dart. If we take a look at that, this one is a community package. It has rules stemming from the official Dart guidelines, hence the name effective Dart. What we are going to use though is a community package called lint. It's made by Pascal Welsh and it enables some sensible defaults. And as you can see, this package can be used as a replacement for package pedantic for those who prefer stricter rules. So how can we go about enabling rules from a third-party package? Well, we of course first need to add it to pubspec YAML. So let's do just that. We're going to add it under dev dependencies because we of course don't need linting while the app is already running. So let's add it to dev dependencies. And once we have it as a dependency, we can go to AnalysisOptions.yaml, and usually it's done in the first line of the file. We can include that package's AnalysisOptions.yaml file. So include package lint, that's its name, and we want to include analysis options YAML. And to find out about the rules which are enabled by the package and also about their severity levels, you can go to the package's GitHub. So let's just go there, repository, and we can check out its lib folder, then AnalysisOptions.yaml. And as you can see, here we go. We can see everything which is enabled, and there's quite a lot going on here. And again, if you want to override something which the package does, you can always disable the rule here by setting it to be false. And you can also change the severity level coming from the package to your own liking. Once we have added this package, you can see that a bunch of new issues, errors, and warnings have popped up. For example, we of course still cannot reassign a parameter, so we're just going to get rid of this mess. But now we have a warning here saying that this function has a return type of string but doesn't end with a return statement. Previously, this was just an info message. Now we get it as a warning. What's more interesting though is that we also get warned about useless containers, which really have no place here. This container does nothing more than just clutter up the code base. So now we know that this is useless and we can remove it from the widget tree. Next, we were actually notified about this thing even before, but let's take a look at it now. Immutable classes, like for example stateless widgets, should not have non-final fields. And actually we also get a message under display text which says private field could be final. Prefer final fields. This one is actually coming from the lint package. So now we can use quick fixes by either hitting Control and dot in VS Code, or you can also press this light bulb and we can make this final. Next up, we have a squiggly line below text display. Prefer declare const constructors on immutable classes, which is a good observation. So we're going to set it to const. And if you want to learn everything you need to know about const constructors in Dart, check out the separate tutorial from the card in the corner. Another thing we get with const constructors, because this text display widget now has one, we should use it whenever possible. So we get this squiggly line below text display saying again that we should prefer const with constant constructors. And there is actually a nice quick fix for this. So again, Control and dot, and we can add const modifier just like that. So now you have absolutely no excuse not to use const, because you don't even have to employ your brain power into that. You can just follow the lint and it's going to tell you where you should use const keywords. Now we even get notified that we should sort children as last in widget instance instantiations. So move child property to the end of arguments. And should you not want this rule to be enabled, you can always just copy its name and set it to be false in the rules. But I for once quite like this. And again, this text is also capable of using constant constructors, so let's add it. Nice. Modifying AnalysisOptionsyaml just opens up new possibilities to fix up Dart's stupid defaults. For example, this method which has a return type but doesn't return anything, right? Currently it gives us a warning, but I would even make it into a fully blown error. And with analysis options, it's very simple. We just need to copy the name, missing return. And as you know by now, we are just going to change its severity to be error. And now absolute garbage of a code like this will not be able to compile without notifying us with a nice pop-up. Because you know, most of the real programming languages, sorry JavaScript, bombard you with an error if you forget about the return statement. And now we have just brought this functionality over to Dart. To go through this tutorial at your own pace once again and to get all of the code, check out the written tutorial available from the link in the description. And be sure to tweak the rules and their severity to make your codebase as healthy as it possibly can be. And if you are serious about becoming a great Flutter developer who can build real apps for clients or at the job, go to flutter.education, link is also in the description, to get the top curated Flutter news and resources aimed at improving your app development career. Over there you can also subscribe to my mailing list to get the best Flutter resources delivered weekly right into your inbox. And if you don't want to miss more tutorials like this, be sure to subscribe to this channel and also join the notification squad by hitting the bell button to make sure you grow your Flutter skills, because because here on ResoCoder, I am determined to provide you with the best tutorials and resources so that you will become an in-demand Flutter developer. If this video helped you with understanding linting in Dart and also how to configure your own lint roles and their severity, give this video a like and also share it with other developers who will surely benefit from it too. If you have anything to say, leave a comment down below and see you in the next video.